What is up, guys? We are back again with another episode of Local Topper Profiles, where we are once again here with a returning local topper. So for his third appearance in this series so far, we are back once again with Matt. And so, what deck did you win with tonight's locals?
I put together a Crystron deck this time around.
All right.
Really like that. I just like how much you can keep playing. I mean, there are a few things that can hurt it pretty badly, but there still are some ways to get around them and, keep pushing through and make at least a semi-decent end board. So, yeah.
Right. And then, so this is one of the new decks that got support out of Supreme Darkness alongside Evil Hero and Speedroid. So this deck overall is still recently new. And yeah, so without further ado, let's see what you had and let's get on with the profile.
All right, so I'm going to start with just some of the engine that's included. Not much really in the engine department. I think it's 18 engine cards in total, not counting a couple of the kind of staple things that you see in decks that have this same kind of profile with graveyard and banishing and all that kind of stuff. So we'll start with 3 copies of Crystron Inclusion. That's one of the new ones that just came out in Suda. Pretty good one, allows you to add a card, and then it's got some other effects, but really you want to get that one into the graveyard. Part of it is ultimately getting it to the graveyard and using the effect in there as well. So for the other non-monster card is Crystron Cluster. That is a pretty good trap card. It's a good one to have on your board going into your opponent's turn. Ultimately allows you to it's basically a pop of a card. It's like a, 1 to 2 pop depending on what you have on board. Starting with the one-ofs, monster-wise, Crystron Citri, just a level 2 tuner. Doesn't really have much in the department of effects that would be usable, but we use it just to kind of have an extra tuner body to use. Crystron Press Yordle. This is good in the event that one of your starters does get stopped. If you can get this in the graveyard, it allows you to special summon a Crystron monster from the hand by banishing it from the graveyard. Crystron Dicevern. This is a good one to grab an additional Crystron monster to use with this effect, or even just to have one in your hand for follow-up, or if you do need to have like a Tristeros or something like that in your hand. Crystron Rosenix is the only use really for this card is to use it to make a monster in the extra deck, which I'll get to later. But it's just a one-of body, an extra body to have. Now to the main ones you really want to draw into. Crystron Sulfador. It's a great starter, especially when paired with Crystron Inclusion. Or any of the monsters, really. I mean, you can kind of go off with that if you don't have any. The opponent doesn't have any interruptions. So the main tuner is Crystron Tristeros. Has a great effect. This is one of the Suda cards as well. This one has a couple things. So basically, during your opponent's turn, even during your turn, when your opponent activates an effect, so say they imperm or something of the sort, you can special summon a Crystron monster from your deck and then immediately synchro summon. It's a good way to dodge imperm, a good way to dodge anything. Not that they would even try to really imperm that. Next we have 3 Crystron Smiger. So this is one you really want to get into the graveyard. This is the one that allows you to add your spells and traps. It's a pretty good starter. If you can get it into the graveyard, you really want to dump it with the effect of Sulfador. So when Sulfador is summoned, you can actually basically Foolish Burial 2 Crystron cards, any Crystron cards, not just monsters, to the graveyard. And then we have 3 Crystron Solfefnir, which is pretty solid to have as well. It has a couple of effects to summon it from the hand or from the graveyard. So definitely some interesting interactions there. As far as non-engine goes, we have a Speedroid package, which is just 3 Terratop and 1 Takatomborg. And then your basic hand traps, we have Nibiru, Imperm, Droplet. So Droplet plays really well in this deck because, like I mentioned, you want to get things into the graveyard. So if you can send them there with Droplet, it's good for a lot of follow-up on your following turn, or even follow-up in if you're going second, your opponent's got a board built, you can Droplet, send what you want to the graveyard, and then ultimately have the gates and the follow-up. 3 Ash Blossom, pretty standard. 3 Droll. 3 Veiler, and then 1 Foolish Burial, which is good, again, getting the card to the graveyard, 1 Pot of Prosperity, and 1 Call by the Grave. So that's the main deck. You know, a lot of the stuff is self-explanatory. A lot of the Crystron cards play really well off each other, and then all of the non-engine you have is either hand traps or stuff to kind of get things to the graveyard to give you that follow-up that you want. Moving into the extra deck, not a lot of Crystron in the extra deck. I think it's only two Crystron monsters, but still got some pretty solid stuff. So you do 2 Crystron El Escalatus, which is pretty solid. This one on summon allows you to add a Crystron card back from graveyard or banishment to hand, and then if it's destroyed, so what you do is you summon this using Tristeros and one of the level 5s, and then once you've used its first effect, you actually use Tristeros effect in the graveyard to banish itself, pop this, and summon 2 from your deck, and then you can summon an additional monster with this, you know, just making bodies, right? Crystron Corian Gondrax, that's the big boss monster for Crystron. It's you know, on summon you can pop up to 3 monsters, or banish up to 3 monsters, I'm sorry, and then when it's destroyed, you can summon any monster from any banish pile. So say your opponent, you banish one of your opponent's Blue Eyes White Dragons or something of the sort, you can actually pull that back and have it on your side of the field, just to kind of have it. 2 FA Dawn Dragster, pretty common in the Crystron experience because, you know, it's easy to make a level 7. It is a spell and trap negate. High speed Road Chambara, pretty good for any OTK. You know, it's a level 5, so you can get one of the tuners and a level 3 on board. You can make this and swing for 4,600 directly to your opponent if you can get there. Samurai Destroyer, pretty common in the Tenpai engine. We've seen that a lot recently. But it's a good card to have. You make it, and then your opponent ultimately can't activate effects during the damage step once this card battles. So it's good to kind of get rid of things that you have like damage step effects or anything like that. And then the last one is last Synchro Monsters, Powered and Zektron. So like I said, when I mentioned Rosenix, this is the only reason you have Rosenix in the deck, is to be able to make this Powered and Zektron. So that's this card here ultimately stops your opponent from being able to do damage to you, any type of damage to you, whether it's effect damage, battle damage, during whichever turn you summon it. So good card to have there. Can definitely at least buy you a turn for follow-up. As far as Xyz monsters, Chronomaly Vimana is a good one. Yeah, good. Chronomaly Vimana, ultimately it is another negate, as well as has the ability to gain attack based off of a monster in the graveyard. And then these two kind of go together. So you have Cyber Dragon Nova and Cyber Dragon Infinity. Ultimately,
Rank up.
Yeah, exactly. Cyber Dragon Infinity is an Omni Negate. Also can swallow up monsters that are in attack position. And then a card that's, you know, seen a lot of play in this new format, Superstar Slayer Typhon. Pretty self-explanatory with that one. I think it's pretty common to see in a lot of the decks these days. So, you know, that's all the Xyz monsters. And then as far as Link, we have a Cherubini. This is mainly used with that Speedroid package. It's an easy way to get 2 bodies. You make Cherubini. You send one of your Crystron monsters to the graveyard. Full combo, ultimately. Clockwork Knight, one of the newer cards again from that we saw in Suda. Very good, able to kind of monster reborn a machine monster, which every monster in this deck, in the main deck anyway, is machines, so good to have there. And then another staple, which is SP Little Knight. So kind of one of those cards that's hard to not put in your deck, right? So that's the extra deck.
General interruption,
Yeah.
always good to use.
Yep. And then as far as the side deck goes, I know there's been a few deck profiles here, but I kind of, you know, I did something a little bit different. Nothing too crazy, but I have the 3 cross-out designators. You know, pretty solid, especially going against if they're going to try to side in, you know, Lancia or something like that against you. You want to have this to be able to, or any hand trap really, you want to be able to send